Hi, everyone, and we're back to the Neil Haley Show here on the Total Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome the program. Again, this is the Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. Caregiver Dave Nasani. Dave, how are you? I see you're in your studio. Are you surviving in California, my man?
We are not only surviving, Neil, we are thriving here in California.
Oh, yeah, thriving with this coronavirus. It feels like, and since our state has become like Dave's state, it's ridiculous here in Pennsylvania, especially Western Pennsylvania, going into specific places with masks on everywhere. You going to a Sheetz at 1 o'clock in the morning and feel like it's a hospital. That's a crazy experience, Dave.
Yeah.
All right, so Dave, go ahead and introduce our guest.
Jeff Abrahams. He is an agent for comedians. He is a funny guy himself. He has some really big time name people, and I could do like Guilford Godfrey and introduce him for like an hour, but I won't. I will just say he's a great guy. He's got a new book out. The show must not go on. It's about people who have actually died on stage. And I'm not talking about comedians who have died on stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have room in the book for all the stories. But literally comedians, and not only comedians, but anybody who has actually died on stage, which is an incredible subject. I don't think I personally have ever seen anybody who has actually croaked on stage. So welcome, Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Hi, hi, Neil. Hi, Dave. How are you? Welcome.
Good.
All right. Yeah.
Let me say the correct title is "The Show Won't Go On." Won't go on.
The show won't go on. Okay, that's better. That's shorter.
The most shocking, bizarre, and historic deaths of performers on stage. And that's all I had written for 12 years. What happened was, about 15 and a half years ago, I went to see an Elvis tribute show. And part of the show was a man named Al Dvorin. The name probably means nothing to you guys, but you know the voice. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has left the building.
Elvis has left the building. Yes, I know that.
Well, he had worked with Elvis and the Colonel going back to 1955, and he wound up becoming the announcer, and you hear him on the famous Madison Square Garden show. And at the end of this Elvis tribute show, Al was in the lobby mulling around with friends. And someone said, Al, when are you going to write a book? You've done it all. And he goes, yeah, I know. I'll get to it. And this was, we said goodbye to him at 10 o'clock Sunday morning after having breakfast, leaving the hotel. He was killed in a car accident.
Yeah. No procrastination. That's right.
And it literally took the breath away. I said, wait, I was just with this person less than 12 hours ago.
Wow.
And I thought about other performers who had died going to a show, or Buddy Holly, and all the plane crashes, Jim Croce, and I knew about one of the Righteous Brothers, and I even knew a couple of performers who had died on stage, like Dick Shawn, and we'll get to in a second. So I came up with this great title: "The Show Won't Go On," and that's all I had written. And people just, after a while, people said, "Shut up, stop talking about it." Except for my writing partner, Bert Kearns, who's an investigative journalist and a damn good friend, and we had worked together on a previous book about tabloid journalism. He said, "Shut up, let's do it." So we compiled the book, and it was literally going to be all that, the before, the after, the during. And while doing the research, he realized that there were more people that had died on stage that we had never had imagined, and that's how the book came to be.
So wow.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. I think of the person who died on stage because I'm a former professional wrestler. I think of Owen Hart. Right before he was going to perform, he did this act out and then fell and died right before performing. It was that kind of story, and a lot of wrestlers have died before going to events as well.
Well, Owen is the only athlete in the book. And that's the one thing we wanted to do about the book, is we could have done stuntmen and people who literally would have died, whose career is very risk, evasive, risk sensitive, and they would die naturally, like bullfighters and things like that. We could have filled that up easily. So a wrestler is a performer, and the book ends with Carl Wallenda, who's a daredevil, but he's really a performer at the end of the day. So there's a lot of occupations that are not in the book because otherwise it would have been like the size of the Manhattan phone book. But yes, Owen is a tragic story. He was being lowered into the ring on a wire, and then it collapsed and died instantly in the ring.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
this must be more common than we think because the term "is there a doctor in the house?" right? That has been going on for like thousands of years, but as long as Shakespeare's been around.
You're absolutely right. If there's any takeaway from my book, I always tell people if they are going to die on stage, they should never yell, "Is there a doctor on stage?" And the worst occupation to be is a comedian because they will really think you're doing a new piece of business in Iraq and you're kidding around. So
Yeah, they won't take you seriously.
Absolutely. I will give you the best example of is there a doctor in the house? One of the most famous deaths that no one has seen, but they all know about it, is J.I. Rodale, the health expert of all people, died during a taping of the Dick Cavett show.
Oh my gosh.
And it is exactly during the taping. No one has seen it, but Dick has been talking about it since 1971. And I guess if you had a guy die on your show, you'd be talking about it for the next 40 plus years.
How did it happen?
And so he was this quirky little guy, very funny. He had been profiled in the New York Times a few days before and said he could probably live to 100 with his health regimen. And a lot of people thought he had said that moments before he died. He didn't. Because Bert and I are literally the few people that have ever seen this tape. A friend of mine works for Dick Cavett. He said, if you sell this book, I will allow you to watch this episode. So we got to watch a man literally die on stage. So he does his spiel, and he's very funny, very entertaining.
Comedian.
No, I mean, comedic. He had written plays, but he was just a very quirky kind of guy that would be a great guest on a talk show. So he had finished his segment, moved over one chair, and the next guest was a journalist, Pete Hamill. And as they were talking, you all of a sudden heard what sounded like a snore. And that's where the rumor was. They had always thought that Dick Cavett had said, "Oh, am I boring you, Mr. Rodale?"
Did he say that?
No, it never happened. But within a second, they realized something seriously was wrong.
Oh my gosh.
That's something Dick would have said, yes.
And so Rodale is kind of, his head back in the chair, and they realize something seriously has gone wrong. And Dick is just about to say, "Is there a doctor in the house?" But he realizes if he says that, he will get the laugh from the audience.
Right.
So he stops himself. He said, might there be a doctor here? Might there be a doctor somewhere who can help him? And there was hustle and bustle and someone trying to bring oxygen out from backstage, and the oxygen tank wasn't working. And next thing you know, he had a heart attack.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Thinking about that, Dave, I mean, I'm sure that he could write probably 5 volumes of this if he really, this could be just part 1 of your books, Jeff, in so many ways. Dave, do you have any things that, I know you didn't get the chance to read Jeff's book, but do you think of any instances when a performer died before performing?
I can think of a few instances where a performer should have died. And the first one was Evel Knievel, right? Everyone expected him to die while he's, doing his motorcycle over the Rio Grande or wherever he did. And then there's Houdini, right? These people flirted with death, and we expected them to die. We expected them to not get out of that handcuff thing in the water tank upside down, but somehow they always made it out, and we wouldn't be surprised if they did die.
Well, you make a very good point about Evel Knievel. I mean, these people were performers who had it in their blood, and they probably lost a lot of blood doing what they did, but they loved what they were doing, and they were performers at the end of the day, and the show must go on. he always had to do that bigger jump.
Yeah.
But-
And the modern version of him is Steve-O.
Yeah. Or Nick Wallenda, who's carrying on the tradition of his grandfather. But you mentioned Houdini. We interviewed Penn Jillette because we have a whole chapter on a famous magic trick called the bullet catch. And Penn and Teller do that in their live show, and David Blaine did it on the TV special. And he said, we follow the same philosophy that Houdini lived by. We don't do anything more dangerous than sitting in our chair. Even though it looked dangerous, Houdini did take every precaution to show he really wasn't risking life. But he was a showman. But there were moments where he did almost die and things were dangerous.
Yeah. And the closest one, of course, is Siegfried and Roy with their show with the Lions.
Absolutely.
And he almost did die on stage.
Absolutely. And, Carl Wallenda of the famous Wallenda family, they did a stunt called the Human Pyramid where they had, family members stacked one atop the other walking across the wire. And two members fell to their death and one was paralyzed. And they continued to do that effect. And then after a while, they eventually took it out. And, and Carl Wallenda was literally lived. He said, I would rather die on the wire than in bed. And Nick said, no, thank you. I want to die. I want to die in bed with my grandchildren around me. And he, now when he performs these stunts live, I think he just went over a volcano. He's walked across Times Square, and he's tethered to a line for safety, and the network insists upon that. But if he had his choice, he would not be tethered. But he said when he's with a family member, he would be tethered just for their safety. And he realizes it gets the same effect. The old days, people used to go to the stock races to see a car crash, but it's not like that anymore. They just want to see that daring test of endurance.
Yeah, people like the no net thing,
Right.
Yeah. And so what did your clients think when they heard you were writing a book, especially about death before going on stage? I'm sure that made you happy. They said, please don't put us in this book, right? We hope to never be in it.
I had a lot of people said, I hope I'm not in the sequel. When people asked for an autograph, they were very accommodating, and they knew some of the stories, but they were like everyone. They had no idea it had gone back hundreds of years and so many occupations, and it was probably the one thing they were all shocked to learn, and we were during the research, that the most dangerous occupation was orchestra conductor.
Really? And the orchestra went on, no doubt.
Exactly.
That proves the concept. You do not need a conductor on an orchestra. They know what they're doing. What the heck is the guy there for?
He's just a guy waving his arms, who unfortunately is probably 75 years old or older, living on a life of airplanes and terrible food, exerting himself, not great health, and while doing that fatal motion, he has a heart attack and he goes.
And he gets upset when they don't call him Maestro.
Absolutely.
And he falls down in the pit. You can't
One of the
even see
greatest Seinfeld episodes, Maestro. And he was a community. That was awesome. So now, Jeff, now and the book and all the different things, launching that book for yourself versus launching as a PR publicist for so many major clients, helping them with events, getting, making sure that certain cities have the whole tour. How difficult was it for you to do it for yourself?
Yeah, is it like the guy who says you should never, if you're an attorney, you should never represent yourself? He'll have a fool for a client?
No, it actually really worked to my advantage. I knew every radio host across the country and the producer, the fact that I know you gentlemen, because I had booked clients with you. So I was able to call favors and the people who had trusted me, that I had given them good clients over the years. And some of them, called and said they did it as a way of thank you, and people were intrigued by the product. So I certainly knew how to promote a book, and I have represented many authors over the years. So it was very easy
Exactly.
to promote this book.
But you had to carve out time, right? Because your clients are going to make you a little bit more money than a book. So that's the other thing.
And when you asked about my clients, I really kind of kept it to a minimum because there was a great TV special in the 80s, I think, called Live in Person. It was hosted by the manager, Sandy Gallen. He was going to try to recreate the Ed Sullivan Show. He was going to host it. It was going to be 3 live nights in the Shrine Auditorium. And I went to one of the nights. And one of the acts was Menudo. You remember this. They were like the biggest boy band.
Oh, yeah.
And Siegfried and Roy performed. I think it was either Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton doing Island in the Skies, or Neil Diamond and Barbra Streisand. It was that unbelievable talent. And Joan Rivers was a client of Sandy Gallen, and she called up the office and goes, can I talk to Sandy? Oh, he's not here. Oh, where is he? Oh, he's on the set. And she said, when he gets off the set, would you tell him he's fired? Is he managing my career or his career? So I didn't really let people know until it was done, and I really be very cautious and not posting everything. Said, oh, why are you in Vanity Fair and I'm not in Vanity Fair? You know what I mean?
And that's the thing I have to caution with my clients that are digital marketing. If I'm getting too over in social media, why aren't you doing it for me? You're not spending the time with me, and that's a challenge. It's always a challenge. Now, Jeff, the question, I remember who would you rank as your? You can't say this, some of the clients you've represented and what you've learned from representing them, because that's the other thing of growing as a great PR rep is learning from your clients. Can you give an explanation on that process? And for people out there listening saying, I want to be like Jeff someday.
I represented George Carlin for the last 11 years of his life. Yeah. And that was probably one of the greatest joys of my life, to represent, literally, in my opinion, probably the greatest stand-up comedian. We can have, that's a whole other conversation, because there's always a poll. Richard Pryor, George Carlin. George always comes in second, but Richard is brilliant. I know his daughter, but George for me was the best. I grew up with George, and then one day to get a phone call, how would you like to represent George? For 11 years, it was amazing, and his work ethic was amazing. And he had a very protective manager, George, and George only wanted to do interviews one day a week rather than driving him crazy. George, talk to this guy at 11, this guy Wednesday at 3, and George was doing a new stand-up special every 2.5 years. Can you imagine the amount of work to create that and to write? So he had to be disciplined. So it was like every Tuesday we can have George from 11 to 1 to do interviews. So I was a great admirer of that discipline that took into the craft. And he was great about he knew if he's going to go to Omaha, he better do the radio station with Omaha.
Yes.
He wasn't too big. He goes, no, I don't need them. No, we would look at ticket counts and realize, you know what? Poughkeepsie is doing great. We can ignore them. Omaha can use a little help. Let's do a radio. Let's do that. And when he had a new book to hold up, or a new HBO special, or he was going to be in the new Bill and Ted movie, he would do press. He was proud of those efforts, and he wanted to make sure that book went to the New York Times bestseller list. And he wanted to make sure everyone knew he had a new special. So he was not above doing press, but really only wanted to do it. And I had other clients, somebody would do a magazine. Hey, what's in your medicine cabinet? Those kind of quirky little stories. And I had clients who care less about that. I want to talk about my craft, and other clients that they wanted to do, wanted to be in everything to keep their name out there. And there's something to be said for that. I don't negate it, but depending on the type of client, like certain people don't tweet, it's like, unless they have something major, and then certain people are tweeting what's in the refrigerator daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have great admiration for George Carlin. I loved him as a boy, and as I grew older, his comedy evolved. And it was one of the things on my bucket list to do a comedy set, because there's nothing scarier than do comedy, because it's like, oh my God, if you screw up, you're just out there, you can hear the crickets. And so I had the opportunity to do a 4-minute comedy set at the Harvard Club of New York, and they laughed, so I could cross that one off my list. So, but I highly respect comedians. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
Well, they say the greatest fear is standing in front of people. Now combine that with the getting up in front of people and trying to make them laugh.
Yeah.
And the danger is if people laugh the first time, and then they go back the second time and they die, and a lot of them quit. The whole thing is you have to fail so many times
Exactly.
before you get good.
And
Handle the stress. Yeah.
And then Jeff, the transition, comedian to actor and becoming the superstar. There's so many comedians that are always on stage that never got that opportunity, that sitcom or that big show that changed things.
Yeah.
And that again was the wonderful thing about George. People said, "Oh, you represent comedians." Like I was limited to that. But the one thing about George, I was representing an author half the time, because during my reign, he did 3 New York Times best-selling books. He was in several movies, and we promoted a TV special as if it was a TV series. So the great part was he got to do everything, and when you represent a sitcom star, hopefully you're representing the number 1 or 2 lead. Representing the 4th lead is very difficult, because no one wants to talk to that person as much, unless it's a true ensemble like Friends and everyone is even willing. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the thing, Dave, that is interesting with Jeff is just once you put George Carlin as one of your clients, it's easy to close once you've said you've represented a legend like that, right?
Oh yeah, I was impressed.
Would you agree?
I mean, and he's been gone. I think he's been gone 11 years now, but it's still
oh
a badge.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's still a badge of honor. And I've gotten, I've worked with his estate off and on to this day on various projects. And his daughter donated her father's papers to a wonderful museum that's in Jamestown, New York, the home of Lucille Ball, called the National Comedy Center. And when she donated her papers about 4 years ago to the center before it had physically opened. And when they wanted to do a press release, she said to them, the only person who should really be talking about my dad is Jeff Abraham. So I helped them do the announcement. We got some great press. And to this day, I now represent the Comedy Center because of that.
Wow.
Oh,
I bet some of those papers included napkins, right? Scratching out.
Absolutely. Yeah, George wrote on things. He was always taught to write things down. So there were a lot of scraps of paper and a lot of baggies. In fact, we had, through our archivist at the center and George Carlin's archivist, we were able to take a scrap of paper and then watch and see it build. Oh, this scrap of paper, this one-line thought became this routine. Absolutely, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, and then that's the excitement. So, Jeff, the final question we always have is Dave asks that caregiver question. He's a caregiving expert. And Dave, you go ahead and ask the caregiving question to Jeff.
The caregiving question. Okay, well, you don't know anything about me, but you can see my background. I've had the opportunity to speak everywhere in 34 TV shows and on stages at Harvard and so on. And I'm just sharing my story because I was just a normal guy. I own a gas station, still do. And one day when we were going through the empty nest phase of our life, we had 3 daughters, raised them, got them out of the house, got them married off, each one twice. My wife complains about a headache she had for like 3 days, the headache of her life. She wanted me to call Dr. Kevorkian and put her out of her misery. Wow. She was kidding, of course. But that 4th day, we didn't have the opportunity. The ambulance came. It was too late. She had suffered a stroke, lost her speech, became paralyzed on one side. And in that moment, our life just turned upside down. Everything changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. But we grieved for a couple of years. Anytime you suffer loss, you grieve, you go through the process. And after a while, I needed to go to a support group to learn that if I didn't take care of me first, I couldn't take care of my wife. And so, like the airlines tell you, put your mask on first. Well, I started doing that. I started feeling selfish and guilty, but slowly but surely, my wife started coming around, being her old self again. Our love was rekindled. And now we travel the world just sharing our message to caregivers, how to stay alive. Don't let your loved one's illness or disease actually kill you. And now don't let the coronavirus kill you, because it's even more stress for caregivers and so on. My question to you, Jeff, is has caregiving touched your life? Because I always say, just wait. You're either going to become one, you're going to need one. There's no escaping it.
It's wow. It's heavy. The only thing I can say is Monday.
Sorry for the heavy.
Monday is the 1-year anniversary of my father's passing. But I was very fortunate that he had a stroke and died 2 weeks later.
Yeah, that's a blessing, believe it or not, because it could just
be,
go on and on and on.
And not to be selfish, it's a strain on the family members to watch someone there. But trust me, he was doing worse than we were in that hospital bed.
Yeah, that's how I want to go, like that. Boom.
So I'm not answering your question, but I had friends who, watched their parents, wilt away with Alzheimer's for 5 years. And while my father was ill, I had a friend who lost his father and mother within 28 days of each other. And I said, Luckily, my mom had died 10 years prior to my dad, So the only thing I can say is enjoy the moments. I kind of always thought Dad would always be with us, and he had a stroke on April 15th. On March 24th was my birthday. So about 5 weeks before his stroke, they were planning a birthday. We were going to have a get together at my brother's house for my birthday, and one of my niece's birthday was around the same time. And I didn't know it. They had planned it at the last second, and I had made plans elsewhere. They said, "Oh, I'll see you Sunday." I said, "Oh, I won't be there at my birthday party." And ironically, my dad was the last time he came up to visit, and I wasn't there. And it kind of sticks at the back of my head every moment,
Yeah.
But no, I was a good son, and I visited him. I saw him, 3 days before the stroke. But so my takeaway is this: your parents aren't always going to be there. You should try to sit down with them and ask them questions and enjoy their moments with them with viruses. And you say during this virus, call friends you haven't spoken to, and say that. It's a shame as a scholar who's written a book and done all this research. I can tell you everything about Dick Shawn, who died on stage, his life. Yeah. And I may not know everything about my dad because I never sat down and said, "Dad, what was it like in the 5th grade?"
Right.
And the terrible thing is, my dad was a pack rat. If you can see behind me in the Abraham Comedy Archive, it's about 5,000 albums. I picked up that habit, but he had every piece of paper. He had the mortgage from the house I was born in, and every receipt. And I really wish he was one of those persons. I'll get to it. We'll go through those later. And I really had wished we had pushed my dad to go through these papers and ask him about, his high school yearbook. I looked at the family photos one more time. So
exactly. Wow.
So what I would say is, it's not too late to call someone today. Spend time with your dad. I know we Zoom every dad now is probably on Facebook or Skyping or at least by the phone. And call in. My mom used to kid me every time, and when I used to forget to call her, she would always say, you have a mother, you could call me.
The Jewish guilt, okay.
Exactly. And it kind of worked, and it was important. There's so many things I really wish I had done with my parents.
Yeah. I actually did that with my mother and my mother-in-law. We did a video. Well, tell me about your life. I just turned the thing on and walked into the other room, and they're just talking and talking and talking. And, everybody talks about the unsung heroes in this pandemic, the hospital workers, the nurses, and so on. But nobody talks about the new caregivers that are coming on. New caregivers are being made as frequently as someone gets infected. So I got a website, caregiverdave.com. It's a membership website. So that's the support now, the online support to help you not only
Exactly.
survive but to thrive as a caregiver.
That's great. All right, Jeff.
No,
Best place we can find info on you, Jeff, and stuff to purchase the book and stuff. Where's the best place to go?
Our website is theshowwon'tgoon.com or Died on Stage, and that's where you will find it. It will be Amazon links, links to previous interviews, and no, it's great, and I love telling our story. You know, the book came out in September, but our Bert has been capturing names of performers who died due to coronavirus. I mean, there's almost a sequel based on that.
Yeah. Wow.
Volume 2.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care, guys. Appreciate it. All right, thanks.
Neil.
All right, you're right. All right. Okay, you're listening to the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Provision Brokerage Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome to the program Eric Couch. Eric, how are you?
Hey,
And boy, I told you how much I love Tiger King, so I had to make this special for you today.
We're getting exotic over here.
You never know. It was looking like, specifically enough, one of our guests looks like the one that did the last Netflix special. I forget the celebrity's name. I'm like, oh my gosh, Darren's really connected. Michael looks like the guy who interviewed everyone for the social distancing last episode of Tiger King. If you guys did check out that final one they laid out. What's that celebrity's name, Eric? Do you remember?
Joe McHale.
Who?
Is it Joe McHale?
Yeah, Joe McHale. He looks like Joe McHale for a second. I was like, oh my gosh, Darren, you're the man. You went ahead and got Darren Joel for us? But Michael, has anyone ever told you that? You look like Joel?
No, they haven't. But hey, I'm just going to write that down and take it.
I'll claim it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead, Eric, and introduce our guests.
So Darren G. Davis is the creator of Tidal Wave Production, and he's got his crew here today, and we are going to have a wild conversation. So, Darren, introduce everybody to us, and we'll jump in, man.
So we have the writer who I've been working with. How many years did we say, Michael? We talked about this yesterday.
6 years.
6 years. So I've been working with Michael. He's one of my biggest writers. We've done everything from, the Christopher Reeve biography to the Stormy Daniels biography to, and there's a signed copy of Stormy Daniels right there, so which you can't see, to the Stan Lee tribute and all that type of stuff.
All right.
So I've been working with Michael for 6 years. We're doing the Tiger King. I keep getting lion and tigers and bears.
Oh my.
So we're doing the Tiger King comic book together. And then we have down below, it's like the Brady Bunch. Yeah, so we have Jesse Johnson, who did the cover for the alternate cover for the book. He's a Portland artist. I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I wanted to try something new and use somebody from Oregon. So super excited to have him on board. I've known him for a couple of years. And Joe Paradise, who cannot be with us, he had a family emergency or something to that effect. So,
yeah.
But you couldn't join us. But what's ironic about him is that his name is actually Joe Paradise, we're Joe Exotic from the Tiger King.
Yeah.
So that's his given birth name. So it's just
not stage name.
Have him. Yeah. And I've worked with Joe a lot too. I started off with him. I think we did, because we've been doing biography comic books for 12 years, and he came on 4 years ago. What's great about Joe is he's in the 90s, they had this comic book company called Rock and Roll Comics. And so he used to do a lot of the biographies back then. And then he reached out to me because we're like kind of the next generation of doing biography comic books. And we did like a ton of biographies in 2012? I can't even, it's quarantine. I don't even know what today is.
Yeah.
So, so
It's
yeah, for the
Mondays,
last,
Thursdays. Right.
so for the last election, we did a bunch of Republicans because they were more in the limelight. And so Joe worked on like the Jeb Bush and, Rand Paul, and we did a bunch of different books. And this season, we're doing a lot of Democrats. So like Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris, and we're doing a bunch of different ones. So
Okay, I gotta grab something so that you can see based on your comments. Here we go.
Eric is prompt 2 today. There we go.
I got my socks.
Donald Trump
Yes,
socks.
with the comb. I had a friend send them to me. I saw them online. I haven't had the nerve to take them out because it's so awesome. But I was dying laughing. I was like, these socks with the comb.
That doesn't look real because I don't think he uses a comb.
I don't know that he does either. But I was like, that's hilarious.
Michael did a biography on Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So for us. So yeah, it's very, that's a fun one. We keep, so with a lot of, just FYI, just with a lot of our biographies, political, whatever we do, we always keep them unbiased. So if you like Donald Trump, or you like Barack Obama, or you like Joe Biden, or you hate Elizabeth Warren, or you hate this person, we really keep them unbiased because a lot of schools and libraries pick up these books. So we really feel like we do have a
obligation.
So you're really, really trying to keep it unbiased.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I don't want anybody to know who I vote for.
Yeah.
So.
I always say I'm an equal opportunity offender. So, I'm going to give you a hard time no matter who you are.
As a journalist, I can't give. I'll give my opinion, but I won't say whose side I'm on.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we try to be that way too. Even when you do a Bon Jovi comic book, you can't like say the negative stuff about him, but you can say, so it's all of that. So
interesting. All right, Eric, go with the first question because I have multiple questions to talk Tiger King with them.
Okay, so you guys obviously you guys are making or you've made a Tiger King comic book.
We are in the process of making. So the way that this came up is I've worked with Michael for a long time. And we did, so at one point with the Stormy Daniels comic book, which she ended up now, she's working with us. So like we did a different version about a year and a half ago. And we got calls from Michael Avenatti screaming at us. We got calls from her people. We got death threats. We got all this crap. And it was like super like scary, nasty. Yeah. And then a year later, she reaches out to us and she goes, "I want to work with you guys." And we're like, "What?" And I'm like PTSDing. And so this is a new edition. Michael added 3 pages with Joe's artwork, and Joe's artwork is pretty amazing. Yeah. So we thought when we first did the Stormy Daniels comic, we thought, what's the best worst idea we can come up with?
Tiger King.
So we're like, let's do a Stormy Daniels comic book.
Yeah.
So then Tiger King comes along, and then we're like, what? We can up our game.
Like we can't walk past this.
We can't walk past this. So yeah, so we ended up talking about it. It was me, Joe, and Michael. I'm like, let's do this, and Joe's like, I'm on board, and Michael's like, yes. So it's the dream team of comics, and then Jesse came on too. So
one of my questions has to be, and I'm going to quote. So this will be in quotes, but how are y'all going to portray that bitch, Carole Baskin?
That's the part we're working on right now, actually.
Oh yeah, like I start tearing up every time I see it. I start laughing, and
oh my god! Actually, Daniel, come here for a second. He does it really good. This is my husband here. He won't be on camera. He won't be on camera. But listen,
I don't know if I do it all good, but that bitch Carole Baskin better watch out. I've got guns for her.
Yeah, he's super good at that. So we became just like the world and 34 million people.
Yeah.
We fell in love with this cat. I don't know if we fell in love with them, but
you can't It's like watching a train wreck.
It's so like watching a train wreck.
Oh, absolutely.
And so with Carol Baskin, okay, and so this is truth. So what was perceived on Netflix? So we're working with PETA on this book.
Okay.
And so I have a relationship with PETA. I don't agree with like 100% of their stuff or whatever, but there's some stuff I think they do great, some stuff they don't. And this is the national PETA.
Yeah.
So it's not like the super not national PETA ones.
Yeah.
And so I know the head of PETA. He's a good friend, really nice. And I know we've done like SeaWorld campaigns with them. I did my first like naked or fur thing. So there's certain things that I believe in. And then, but I eat meat. And the first time I met with them, I was wearing leather shoes. And I'm like, is this okay? So, so I pick and choose my battles with that. So because they were featured a little bit in the biography, in the Netflix biography and also the TMZ biography.
Right, right.
I reached out to them and they kind of let us in on some more information that was not in the Tiger King
So
documentary.
maybe some juicy details.
Yeah, so like one detail I'll tell you about is, so they show Carol like letting people come in and look at the animals and like talk to the animals and all that type of stuff.
Right, right.
But what they don't say is that actually was a fundraiser. So that they made over $30,000 and the money went to, you know, helping big cats overseas and to help with that. And so Netflix didn't talk about that, but there was no cub holding. There was no like, you know, there was no touching of the animals kind of things in the Netflix or in general. There was none of that. And so do I think she killed her husband? Check the meat grinder. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know.
That's the De Niro.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I
But
think so. I think so. I think she.
I
You know, they say that they're investigating it again.
know, and I love that. And so
Sequel.
I was trying to reach out to Carol Baskin to have on my show. So
Yeah.
I get,
Oh.
yeah. So and also try to friend the guy from Inside Edition. Now we got to interview David Lawrence today, who was from Heroes. He was the puppeteer, and he
Oh.
looks like he's connected to the guy. So I don't think you liked Eric when you mentioned the Tiger King in that way, because I think that the guy that's from Inside Edition, if you remember that character's name, he really is hurt still and feeling really. He wants to forget about it completely. So it looks like David and them are good friends.
he was just on that the TMZ special, and now he lives in Norway. So that's what I'm saying. I think all of them are enjoying this to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know, I've seen them all. The place where you have to really look is go to Cameo. And so people that don't know what Cameo is, you can
Right.
get your favorite celebrity or whatever to throw out a shout out to you. There's at least 7 or 8 people from Tiger King on that.
Yeah.
You could pay $100 for them to go, hey, you, what's up? Happy birthday.
Damn.
And they're on there. And I guess you can have that one dude have his teeth in and his shirt on or not. What was the one that they're giving him a hard time because he never had a shirt on? The first husband? Or
Yeah, but now he has teeth now.
he has teeth and he wears clothes now, apparently.
Yeah, and he has that weird beard. So
He said he just wanted to show off his sweet tattoos.
yeah, just,
Right.
So how many, by show of hands, because you're all on video except me, how many are Tiger King fans before the comic?
You know, I watched it all.
Michael didn't watch. I made Michael watch it because he's like, because he didn't watch the show when I came up with the idea. I'm like, because I said to Joe, I'm like, the Joe Paradise, I'm like, hey, let's do this. Oh my God. And then Michael's like, I haven't watched it. I'm like, okay, you gotta watch it. And then I'm sure his wife Julia is like, oh God. But I love it. I'm on my second turn. Jesse's watched it twice.
Yeah,
Wow.
I had to make sure my friends watched it so they understood the memes I was sending them.
Yeah. Well, and you
And
know,
see,
it's
yeah.
kind of gone viral a little bit. You know,
A little bit. Come on now, it's craze, man.
the Tiger King's meme page, I think, has over 600,000 people following it, and it came out 3 weeks ago. So
Man, we're bored in this coronavirus thing, aren't we? That's gotta be it.
I mean, when I first heard it, I said, "There's no way I'm watching it." Then I watched it, and I said, "This is best." Because, guys, I'm a former professional wrestler, full disclosure, and so it just reminded me completely of pro wrestling. And that the guys that were the lower card guys were treated like, and the Tigers were treated as the stars, and then they would be all used by the promoter, who was the Tiger King. And that was the same thing, except the Tigers were the big things. The ladies attracted, just like in pro wrestling, all the ring rats. The same thing happened with this whole thing. Like, think about the other guy, the guy that had like 7 wives.
Doc Arlo.
Yeah.
He's saying he did, but in the TMZ show, they're saying that he doesn't have. He's only been divorced once. He has girlfriends, and they know about each other. So that's just, as I said, from what he said.
So I didn't watch the TMZ special. I watched the latest Netflix episode, but he wasn't on it. So
yeah, he was on the TMZ. It was on Fox Broadcasting Network, not the other one, not Fox News. But you being a wrestler, do you know what my first comic book was?
No.
That I ever did? It was called The 10th Muse, and we used Sable from the WWF as our photo model.
Yeah.
And so we worked with her for like 10 years or 5 years, I think.
So when are you doing another pro wrestling comic? There's got to be another one coming out, right? At one point. Or you guys go for the biggest stories?
Well, the problem with pro wrestling is Vince McMahon.
Remember, he's the one. He's one of the experts that has been hired to get the country back in to business.
To the back!
Ready?
Yeah.
Great.
You didn't know that. You guys did not know that.
I did know that. I
interviewed Linda McMahon, and Linda McMahon, remember, runs small business for the Trump administration. So there you go.
Yeah, it's super weird. So the thing with Sable,
I wasn't sure.
What was it, Mike?
I think it's the day I started drinking. When I heard not sure. Time has lost meaning.
I've been drinking since 2016.
That helps artists quite a bit.
But other than that, yeah.
So because of Sable, she left the WWE. So it was easy for me just to use Rena Miro as the character rather than Sable. So, but she was super famous, and she was like the top selling Playboy model at the time. And so we did this comic book, The 10th Muse. It wasn't TNA'd out. It was like Greek mythology set in modern day world. It was kind of like a Wonder Woman thing. So that was my first stint into comic books. And 20 years later, I'm doing the Tiger King.
Yeah, but see, it's got to be an opportunity. I'm sure when you put this out there. So, Eric, next question for our guests.
Okay, so I mean, we referenced it a minute ago, but how does PETA fit into the comic book? And other than giving you some good inside dirt, where do they? Yeah.
Well, we're dividing the comic into 2 pieces, right? It's a flip book. So one side is Joe Exotic, and the other side's Carol. And PETA really comes into play in the comic with Carol. What I'm trying to do is something a little bit different than what the Netflix show does. Is I want to go back in time and try to create who these characters were before the show became popular.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is get to the point where they meet each other. Everyone knows the show. If you're going to buy the comic, it is likely you've watched it. So let's give them some background information. Let's kind of develop some character. And I think bringing PETA's voice into that part for Carol was really important. They gave me a way to kind of unlock her character a little bit. And come on, you guys will watch it. Nobody's sympathetic in this thing. But you've got to find a way as a writer to get your readers excited about these characters and wonder what's going to happen next to them. So since the mystery is off, we know he's in jail. People are accusing her of killing her husband. In fact, half the panel here. So I think it was really important for us to figure out a way to make the characters kind of universal, something a little more interesting. And when PETA came in, gave us that information, it was great. It was the exact thing I was looking for to kind of crack the way she thinks. and the way she was approaching her battle with Joe.
And that, in my opinion, legitimizes you guys even more. Really.
Yeah, and I think PETA does have relationships with both Joe and Carol. And so they're giving us a little more insight. And what I'm also giving PETA is we're giving them 2 pages in the comic book to talk about cub holding and how bad that is actually for the animals. So so it's a win-win for them too, because they get to talk about that. So, which cub holding, I guess, is like, for a wild animal, it's really horrid, because they're not supposed to be that way.
So with that, the show seems to, whether it's officially or not, the show seems to portray that PETA and Carol are kind of arm in arm on the same page. Is that their position? I mean, obviously Joe is the enemy to some extent, but
they also have a relationship with Joe, and Joe's trying to work stuff with PETA out too. He's giving names, he's doing stuff. So yeah, this is not over just because the documentary is over. There'll be a sequel documentary, I'm sure of it.
Oh, absolutely.
But, yeah, I mean, just like Making of a Murder, we're gonna get probably season 3.
Yeah, but remember what Netflix does. They want us to wait for things, and they might change their mind now because they can't shoot. That's going to be the thing in Hollywood. It's going to be really strange. Is now everyone that has a following could become a superstar, even on some of these others, because we're not going to be able to shoot anymore unless we're going back to work in a couple of weeks. In Florida, guys, by the way, the beaches are open, and Eric's in Texas, and are they opening up the state pretty much?
I think on the 1st, they were talking about next week, they're open in the state parks. So I was like, we're going camping. I was like, I just want to be out and have a fire. And
Portland. So Jesse and I are from Portland. We get an A+. Our state has gotten A+ for what we've done. Because we are right next to Washington, which was like a big, gigantic COVID center, and California. And so we did what we were supposed to do, and we social distance. We do social distance, and it's worked, and we have made a difference. Opening the beaches is not the smartest idea,
No, in Missouri, the governor came on an hour before this interview and announced that we would be reopening on Star Wars Day. I mean, those are my words. He said May 4th, but yeah, Star Wars.
Wow, okay. See, here's the thing that, you guys, everyone has their opinion on how we're going to open up and not all this. Canadians think we're crazy, because I was at a live show last night with the Canadians, and they were mad at me. I want to get back to work, but ultimately I want it to be the safest way to do it, and we have to have a game plan for it. We'll have to see if it works or not, but it looks like every state is coming up with a plan based on what the president said yesterday. But we're talking Tiger King, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the thing. Now, favorite character on Tiger King. It's like we're treating it like it's really not real. Let's go around the round table. Favorite character. I'm going to go first. I got to say, I really, really like, again, the Doctor. He's the best because he had the most professional looking tiger setup and all that stuff with his huge compound. He's my favorite character. Next person.
I'm going Joe. He's completely a nutbag, and I love it. And I still watch Honey Boo Boo shows, so I'm like, this Mama June, give me a show about her again. Fine. I just think he's the most interestingest and tragic.
Yeah.
And for some reason I thought, because the first time I watched it, I thought he was dead, because I knew nothing about any of this stuff. So when they kept talking about him in the past, I thought he was dead. So, but then now I know that he's in jail. But I think he's fascinating. I think he's what good TV is.
Yeah, he's like 2 or 3 hours away from me. I mean,
so good. And who else's favorite character is Joe Exotic? Everybody else?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That guy is mad. He's absolutely hilarious. So
I mean, when you're quarantined at home.
Yeah.
It's such a break
True.
from reality.
Right. I used to work in Branson, Missouri. I think I know people like Joe.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well,
come on.
I know they were my fans, right? In pro wrestling, in the minor leagues of pro wrestling, 100 people there. They were all Joe Exotics. Gotta love that Giant Warrior. He's the best,
Oh,
in the world, the greatest.
America.
Joe Exotic and Joe Dirt. So
Joe Dirt, exactly. So I don't know if you can see behind Jesse, but have you? So the cover for that Jesse did for the Tiger King, if you look super close at it, it's all the characters from the show are actually
That's
in
tremendous.
the cover. And if you
Yeah.
look at the tongue, it's Carol. You want to talk about the cover?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, the tongue is actually Carol Baskin. If you look really closely, it was kind of an accident when I was making it, and then it just made me bust up laughing, so I went with it. But they all seem like they're kind of after money, honestly. So what I did is I took those characters, I put them on $100 bills, overlaid that, gave it kind of a pink Joe Exotic vibe. Gave him his patented earrings and then a crown, and then the finishing touches were Carol Baskin on the tongue.
Wow, it's the best. And I mean, here's the question I have, and Eric, and I'll let you have the next question. How do you get away with not having copyright issues? There's got to be. Tell me those challenges.
Good question. First Amendment rights. So we're able to do it. We're not. It's called Infamous Tiger King. So we can get away with it just from that point. We did have problems, and that was like just giving an example of, once again, Stormy Daniels, the comic book that's available on Amazon now. But we had a problem with Stormy Daniels because Stormy Daniels is not her legal name. It's Stephanie Clifford. And so Michael Avenatti just kept hammering it down at us saying, you can't do this, it's copyrighted, it's this, or it's trademarked, it's this. And the only trademark she had at that time was for like stripping and entertainment or dancing or something like that. So we were able to get away with it. And I have a really good agent, I have good lawyers that will help us. We get cease and desist all the time. It's people's job to, like we did a LeBron James comic book, and as long as we're not using logos, and so Michael, we're not using like the big rescue cat logo, and we're not using different things like that, we're fine with, or song lyrics or something like that. So we can't put Joe Exotic song lyrics on there. As long as it's not trademarked or copywritten, we can do what we kind of want. So
wow, interesting, because tell you a story, guys. I almost got sued for interviewing Newt Gingrich, and my web guy, who no longer is my web guy, grabbed the picture that was copyrighted, put it up as the interview. I got cease and desist. They were going to look to sue me for $300,000. So that's the kind of crap for just using a Newt Gingrich in fair use. That should have counted. And ultimately, I got a lawyer to get me out of it because we found out they never filed for it. But you would never think you can go that far. So good old Newt. We had a great interview, but then it ended up almost costing me my business. So that's the learning curve, to have a lawyer on retainer. And I guess the sponsorship I won't make any money because I'm just a customer now. Legal Shield, I didn't use it for that, but Legal Shield's got me out of a lot of stuff. And
Legal Shield, my best friend lives and dies by Legal Shield. She loves it. But like we got in trouble. I remember, and this was my first learning lessons, is we did a Lady Gaga comic book, and the artist, and this is one of the things I talked about with Jesse about like the actual images that he uses, because a lot of them are photos and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And the Lady Gaga, the artist kind of copied the image, and but would change it 10% or 15% or whatever the legal thing is. But still, the artists own the right to photos. So whenever we do these biography comic books, I remember there was a deal with the Elizabeth Warren where she's holding up her arm, and it was based off a photo that the artist used. So we had to change that because it was based off a photo. And so artists own the photos. So, and we don't ever want to infringe on that. And we've learned the lessons the hard way. So
photos really have a fair use thing. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, so another question that comes up, and I found it interesting that since Joe's been in prison, the zoo's still going, and one of the owners of the in Wynwood or whatever the zoo is Shaquille O'Neal, right? And they show him in some of one of the episodes, but then he's now like an owner of the zoo, so.
But hasn't he come out and said that he has nothing to do with it? That's what that's just from social media. I saw something about that.
And I'm ignoring him anyway.
Yeah. Well, larger than life personality, or at least stature.
He ruined Steel for us, so he's out of this comic book.
Oh. No, he's such a minor player in the whole thing that I didn't feel like it was. I mean, you don't have room. Got 24 pages.
Yeah.
You don't have a whole lot of room. You got to kind of pick and choose your battles. This morning, doing final edits for the sequence on Joe, I had to let go like 2 or 3 scenes that I just loved because I had to get it down to the page count that we need. Darren would eventually like to have this thing actually go to print, so we can make our deadline in June. And I just can't keep picking at it and adding characters and subtracting.
Right,
so I
right.
had to really get lean and mean to make sure. And Shaq, he ain't one of them. He's gone.
All right, so now it will come out in June, Darren.
Yeah, June 24th is the release date for it. It's now available for pre-order on comicfleamarket.com, and on Amazon you can actually pre-order the Kindle edition of it. So we're trying to Joe's a fast artist, so I'm not really worried about time and anything like that. Covers are already done. Jesse might do another cover. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen between now and June? But it will hit stores June 24th.
All right, Eric. Any more questions for our crew?
I'm looking forward to seeing it. So this is going to be interesting. I like y'all's spin of changing it. So my question was going to be, how's this going to be different than the show? But I think you told me part is you're doing kind of the prequel, right? Is that right,
Yes.
Michael?
Yeah, I felt like that was important. If I tried to recreate this thing would go on forever. I mean, this is like a Dateline gone bad, right? And it just keeps going and going. And I wanted to do something that made us think about the characters differently. So yeah, think prequel. That's the best way to think about it.
With Mullet.
Darren, are you expecting a big sellout of this because of the fandom of this?
Yeah, we've gotten so much attention from this already. It kind of took me by surprise a little bit. It's literally, I think I said this, it was either going to do a COVID comic book or a Tiger King comic book. So, and I'm like, I'm sitting here in quarantine. It's, I have my little quarantine club here, and I go completely nuts. And I'm like, so uncreative, and, this does not help being quarantined. And so when I was just talking to Joe and Michael, I'm like, what can we do? Let's do something. Let's do this. And then even with Jesse, I'm like, what do we do? It's like, because the way I met Jesse, I've been friends with him on Facebook for a while. I saw a lot of his artwork that he has, and it was during the quarantine time, and he put up this really cool image of just some artwork that he did. And I saw that and I'm like, wow. And it's like, go support your local artists. And I have not really worked with Portland-based artists for some reason, because for whatever reason, I just haven't found somebody that I really wanted to work with. And then I saw Jesse's artwork and I was like, oh my God, this is like amazing. So I bought a piece of his artwork. And then all of a sudden he posts this picture about like this tiger, and it was just a tiger head. And I'm like, oh my God, we're doing this Tiger King comic book. Can you add this, do this, do this? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And so it just like literally came out that way. And so I'm super proud. Like I want posters of this.
Yeah, I'll have them on my website, thedopart.com.
Oh yeah, you'll have posters, there's t-shirts, there's gonna be all this stuff. So.
It's awesome. I love that image. When Darren sent that to me, I thought, oh, great. Overshadowed by another artist. You know, it's just the writing, you know, that's all I need to be.
I'm sure Carol wants to have you guys over, right? She's excited.
yeah.
She's going to have you visit the zoo after quarantine's over.
I actually friend requested her. That's true, because the PETA lawyer, Brittany, who was on the show, I'm friends with her now on Facebook, and she was the one that gave us a quote for our press release. And so she's friends with Carol Baskin, and so I'm like, boop. So we'll see what happens.
All you crazy cats.
Crazy cat.
See, I'd like the interview with the PETA person. So if you can hook me up, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be great to have someone from the show. That'd be awesome. So
Awesome.
Definitely.
yeah, I appreciate that, guys. So, and I other comics that are out right now available, Darren. Tell us really quick before we have to let you go. Some of the comics that people can purchase right now.
Female Force, Stormy Daniels just came out. Bon Jovi just came out. Stan Lee just came out. A tribute. We have the James Comey comic book that Michael wrote. LeBron James comic book just came out. And then we just, after 20 years, we have brought 10th Muse back. Not with Rena Miro, but on her own. So.
Wow.
Yeah, the comic book industry right now is kind of in a weird place because Diamond, who's the biggest distributor or the monopoly of distributors, we left them 10 years ago. And so we're through Ingram, so we can release books where other comic book companies can't. So we're in a luckier place. And I've also offered to other comic book companies that I'll help them get in with Ingram and that type of stuff if they want. So
fabulous, guys. Eric, anything else to add? This is a good conversation about Tiger King, and I know you're going to pick up the comic, aren't you, Eric?
I'm going to pick it up. I may even see if I can get a signed edition from, these guys right here.
I want one from Joe.
Yeah. That's what, he's like, I want one from Joe. I'm like, well, you're pretty close to Joe, you said. We'll give it to you. We'll stick it like in, I don't know.
Carry it in my shirt.
We'll take out the staples. So
right now, that'd be good. Maybe don't put the hard cover on it. Keep it soft.
Yeah, I could definitely make a trip up there and get that stuff pretty easy.
You may be going crazy. You might need some reading material.
He's from
He's reading about himself apparently.
Yeah.
I guess he loves it too, but he's pissed that he can't embrace it because he's.
And President Trump's going to pardon him. Remember?
Oh God! I saw that. I'm like,
when I saw that question at the press conference, I lost it. That was so funny.
Yeah,
that was actually the best.
You must be looking to promote him to something. I don't know. Maybe working with state parks, or I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
All right. Okay. Well, and the best place, the website, right? Is that correct?
TidalWaveComics.com. As I said, it's now available. You can pre-order the digital version on Amazon and Nook or wherever digital comics are sold. And Comic Flea Market is the place where you can pre-order it if you just really don't want to forget about it. But we're going to blow up in a month or 2 months when this book comes out, and it'll be everywhere. So
awesome.
Well, fabulous. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. And take care. That, again, was the Neil Haley Show. Thanks to Provision Brokerage making this happen. Appreciate it. Eric, and your websites, again, where can we find info on you?
Provisionbrokerage.com.
Awesome. Take care, guys.